I'm very excited because we are almost at Christmas, and on Christmas, and leading up to Christmas, I release my favorite 10 albums of the entire year. I'll do this list in two parts. The first will be, well, the release today, and then I'll release another video on Christmas with my with the top 5. So let's get started. But actually, first, a few things. I don't have little song intros at the beginning of my videos anymore, and I don't see that happening in the near future. YouTube changed their copyright rules, and it looks like it's for good. And that's really, I think, all it's going to change with my videos. A lot of people are upset because they make... Anyway, it doesn't affect me as much as other people. It's a really stupid change. And a lot of people are mad about it, but that should be the only difference that it makes for me. Oh yeah, this is my new permanent spot. I've used it the past 4 or so times as opposed to the original one, and I think I'm going to stay here. It's easier to set up, and I think the lighting is better, but the lighting in all my videos sucks. It's not like I'm rolling with super HD equipment, so whatever, it works. And then third of all, people have been expressing their concern for me in my videos. My pet penguin, they say, is behind me in some of them. I've reviewed the footage, and I don't believe that to be true. But thank you for your input and looking out for my well-being. I appreciate it. And finally, from Christmas to New Year's, I'll release 2 or 3, but probably 2 videos of old albums that I really like, but did not have the time or won't have the time to make a video about because they're not current and people have already expressed their opinions over them, and I don't have the time during school to keep up with new records and school and whatever else have you. But since there aren't any new releases in that week and I'm on break, then it sounds like a good time to do some old videos. Almost there. Honorable mentions. I want to do a few. First of all, the Haxan Cloak, a London producer who made some really ominous metal and electronic sounds on his album Excavation. If you're looking for something that makes you feel like you've been buried alive and can't see a foot in front of your face, but in a good way, then this is a good album you should check out. My Bloody Valentine released an album, MBV, their first in many years. It is a combination of a few genres, although they are usually classified as shoegazer, which doesn't really... It's not a genre if you ask me. It's one of those stupid genres that is too specific for its own good. But anyway, really good guitar playing, really cohesiveness with the band. A couple of really breathtaking sequences throughout the LP, and it was real good. MBV. From all the way back in January, which seems like a long time ago, Long Live ASAP from ASAP Rocky. I love the production that ASAP Rocky put on this and on Live Love ASAP. This wasn't quite as good as his mixtape, but it definitely had its strong songs and a couple weaker ones, but I really love the gothic sound that he had on some of them, like the opener and the title track, One Train, Fucking Problems. There are a lot of hits on this album, and although it was inconsistent, I really liked the good songs that he put on here. And then last, I actually have this one right next to me. This is a black metal record from the group Altar of Plagues, Teethed Glory and Injury. Pretty like straight out of The Grudge for the album cover. This wasn't for me, it just wasn't my taste, but I can't deny that it was a really solid black metal record. If you want to listen to, how long is this? About 40 minutes or so of some pretty heavy screaming and breakneck guitar playing, then you should check this out, Altar of Plagues. Okay, it's time. Out of the 210 albums I've listened to this year, these are your, and by your I mean my, top 10. Starting with number 10, Daft Punk Random Access Memories. This album was super anticipated and it came through. Lots of nice elements in this record, some jazz fusion, and to go along with obviously the techno, some of the electronic, and Daft Punk experimented with a few new sounds on this record. They released something you could tell they were enthused about, because the sound is ever evolving on all these songs. It never is content with loops or repeats. It always adds another layer to the key grooves or whatever have you that they're employing. Number 9, Queens of the Stone Age, Like Clockwork. When I talked about this briefly in my middle of the year video, I think I described it as moody, which is still the best word I have for this album, but it relies on some classic Queens of the Stone Age traits, like just a real crunchiness of their music, the crispness that it has, but also it has an allure to it. It's also smooth with the way that it approaches its really typical Queens noises. Check it out. Good rock album. Number 8, another album I have on my desk here. The Knife, Shaking the Habitual. Very pretty colors. So, I tried to listen to this album in my car when I was driving around after I first bought it physically, and I couldn't do it. It's a record that requires your full attention, and it really stands in contrast to this modern accessibility that music has with digital downloads and singles and whatever else. Some of the tracks on here are 11 minutes long. They're all wacky. They all don't really, they don't fit the electro pop and pop whatever label that they're given. But the sounds are not really enclosed in a genre, but they all flow. And that's really what gives this album its appeal. It works like a finely tuned machine, even though it sounds like a really rusted one. So, from my motherland, Swedish duo, The Knife, Shaking the Habitual. Number 7, a release from Darkside, Psychic. This album really excels at creating this spacey atmosphere, but that doesn't stop it from being driven and having a goal in mind. And this album also doesn't really follow any, I don't want to say structure, but it kind of does its own thing when you compare it to other music. But there's no doubt that Darkside had a goal with this album, and they reached it. The combination of noises here, they all flow perfectly, even as outlandish as they may seem. They utilize lots of guitar to background their electronic, cellos, other strings, some horns. This album really is a menagerie, but it pulls it together without being overbearing. Great album, Darkside, Psychic. Number 6, Everything Everything, Arc. Everything Everything is an English band. They make math rock, but it's really just call it rock. It's not that big of a difference. They have a knack for writing really obscure lyrics that they manage to embed a lot of emotion into. I don't know if that's the word I want to use, but for some reason their incoherent babbling carries a lot of emotional weight. And that on top of the nice changes in pace they display throughout this album, like they can go from the opening track, Cough Cough, to like a song like Torso of the Week, and you get this very enjoyable, pleasant, not ambient, but definitely toned back rock record. Everything Everything, Arc. That's it for the first 5. I had 1 techno, 2 rock, and 2 electronic albums, so not a lot of variety. I think that changes when, yeah, that changes when we get to the next part. But anyway, that's it. If you're bored, give some of those a listen. Um, if you're into any of those genres, bands, whatever have you, give those a listen. Okay, part 2 will be here on Christmas. Until then.